Sam Vaughan for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Mental Health Day. Today's date is Thursday, February 8th. Part 5 is mental health PTSD or develop after you go through one of those life-threatening events. It's normal to have stress reactions to these type of events. Most people start feeling better after weeks. If the symptoms is longer than a middle month or causing problems in your life, it could be PTSD. Learn about PTSD treatment, help you recover. It's normal upsetting memories for feeling edge or having trouble sleeping after traumatic events. Also trauma. At first, hard to do daily activities you are used to going to work or school. Even spending time with people you care about can feel difficult. Right, traumatic event, but most people feel better after weeks for some PTSD symptoms may start later or they may come over time. Longer than a month, your thoughts and feelings from trauma are upsetting or causing your life. You may have PTSD. What are symptoms of PTSD? PTSD usually starts soon after that. They may not appear until a few months later. Also may come over for many, many years. If symptoms last longer than 4 weeks, causing your great distress or interference with your work and home life, PTSD might have PTSD. There are 4 types of PTSD to be diagnosed. You need to have each type that said everyone experiences some symptoms in one way or another. Reliving the event, also called reliving the event, also called re-experiencing symptoms. Memories from a traumatic event come back at any time. They can feel real, scary. For example, you may have nightmares. You may feel like you're going to go through an event again. This is called a flashback. You may hear or smell something that causes to relive the event. This is called a trauma reminder cue or trigger. News reporter seeing an accident or healing fireworks are, for example, traumatic reminders. Avoiding things that of the event. You may also try to avoid solutions or people remind you of the traumatic event. You may avoid talking to or thinking about the event. For example, you may avoid crowds because they feel dangerous. You may avoid driving if you were in a car accident. If you were in the military convoy bombed, you may not want to drive because you have a car accident. I get that. I had a car accident. And I freak out every time I see something that I don't like. If you were in an earthquake, avoid movie watching earthquakes. You may keep very busy about getting help so you don't think or talk about the event. Having negative thoughts about the event, the way you think yourself, others may become more negative because the trauma. For example, you feel numb, unable to positive, loving towards others, people, and lose interest. You may forget about the parts of the traumatic, able to talk with them about them. You may think the word is completely dangerous. No one can be trusted. You may feel guilty or shame about the event, wishing done more and keep it from happening. Feeling on edge or keyed up, called hyperarousal. Hyperarousal. You may still have the jitters or always have alert and look out dangers. You suddenly become angry, irritable. For example, You may have a hard time sleeping. You may find it hard to concentrate. You may be stressed or loud noises, surprised. You might act unhealthy, abusing drugs or alcohol. What are some of the symptoms of PTSD or in a child? You may have symptoms of those or above as children. To get older, the symptoms more likely of those adults. Here are some examples of PTSD symptoms. Hyperarousal. You may be jittery, always alert, and look out for danger. You may suddenly angry, irritable, for example. You have a hard time sleeping. You may find it hard to concentrate. You may be startled or loud noises or surprised. You may actually unhealthy ways, smoking, or abusing or drugs or alcohol. You may be able to jitter or always alert and on the look of danger. You might suddenly become angry. You may be startled and surprised. You might actually unhealthy, like smoking or abusing drugs, driving aggressively. Children may have symptoms like those symptoms as children get older. Symptoms may more like those of adults. Here are some examples of PTSD. Children under 6 upset if their parents are not close by. Trouble sleeping out of their way. Children 7 and 11 also may add to trauma, drawing stories to some of their nightmares. Might be aggressive, irritable, aggressive, though they also avoid school and school work or friends. Children 12 to 18 to symptoms more similar to adult depression, anxiety, withdrawal like substance running away. Read more with PTSD children, teens. Do people get better with PTSD after a traumatic event? It's normal to think and act, feel different than unusual. Most people feel better in a few weeks. Talk to a doctor or mental health provider like psychologist or counselor, social worker if you have symptoms. We have more on this next week. Already typed out. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Mental Health Day. From my experience with PTSD, the hardest thing is that a lot of the memories come back when I'm having an episode due to high school and other stuff. I have episodes about every 2 to 4 weeks. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam's Sports Report. The only difference is the episodes are... We have more on this next week. Already typed out. This is Sam Vaughan for Sam's Sports Report and Sam's Mental Health Day.
Most common symptoms are the ones that are often most difficult to recognize. Avoidance. It's human nature to avoid what's painful, right? So we avoid thinking about anything that's painful if we can. We avoid our emotions. We avoid going back to places that remind us of our trauma. But so that could be, and it may not be as obvious, because as trauma, we think of it as our memory for trauma as being becoming cues to fear. And so it may, and those generalize out from the specific event. So you could have been at the World Trade Center and perhaps not even been in the building, but outside witnessing it. And then over time, you'll become afraid of tall buildings. So we had a patient who actually broke up with her fiance because he lived on the 30th floor of an apartment building, and she was terrified to go into his building. Of course, she said that she was breaking up with him because they didn't get along and there were a whole host of other problems. The good news is that after treatment, she realized that she was just scared to go into his building, and they got back together and they got married. But at the time, she had no recognition that she was avoiding his home because it reminded her of being at the World Trade Center.